welcome to the Pollute Your Soul podcast, where to pollute your soul with the truth, with a good time of love with yourself and the universe. Thank you, Jason Willits, for coming to. Well, I'm here. I'm at your place. You came to my place. I'm at your place. So, I'm really excited to talk with you. You're a theologian, a former veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, and you speak a lot about issues and related to politics and other stuff like that. And we're going to talk a lot about, as little Carmine from Sopranos said, with his little analogies he always likes to bring, about the precipice of an enormous crossroads, which grammatically doesn't make sense, which is why I was a big fan of his character. And with the way the world is kind of going, we're at the precipice of an enormous crossroads with where the foreign policy of this nation can take us, and some domestic issues and related to surveillance. So I'm Gen Z, you're a millennial. How do we get here? How did we get to this kind of point of surveillance and deception?
25 years or so. I would say that the population was so busy fighting the culture wars throughout the 70s and 80s that they turned their back and allowed our foreign policy to evolve into imperialism for energy.
Yeah.
And whether that's necessary for our survival or not. But it really is a continuation of what their parents had already done throughout the World War II. And that was a continuation really of what probably their parents had kind of done within industry throughout the 1900s, going up to World War I. So it really, you see this, let's just say a member of the Orthodox Church with whom I attend from Gaza, who has land in Gaza, says, growing up as a child, swimming off the coast, you could smell the liquid natural gas. I
don't understand that. So they were drilling on the water?
No, not drilling. It's naturally coming up. I mean, there's huge deposits of it right off of Gaza.
In the water outside of Gaza, on the beach.
Right. No, out in the sea. So yeah. So this a month before October 7th, Netanyahu had briefed the world on this economic corridor going from India to Europe, and all of a sudden, we have this, what is deemed Israel's September 11th, and they have their excuse to create an economic corridor for themselves, carve it out.
Before October 7th is when he talked about the economic corridor.
Right. Well, that's what he briefed the world on, kind of.
Well, what is the economic corridor?
Well, just the idea that things can flow from India to Europe through Greater Israel much easier than they could through what would be a two-state solution or through the Arab nations.
It's like that one meme with the, with the astronaut and he's pointing the gun. It's like it's always been about Greater Israel. And then the dude is like pointing the gun at him and he's like, it always has been.
I haven't seen that.
I'll put it on the,
I just,
it's like, I feel like it's kind of always been about that. I mean, you have the IDF wearing the patches with the it stretches. What's the phrase from the from the Nile to the Euphrates? Something like that.
Sea, from the river to the sea.
No, that's a different one. But I think they think that they're entitled to the land from Egypt to Babylon or something like that. But what is it? Explain Greater Israel. People kind of get twisted.
I don't know. I don't know how far they want to go.
Well, they got the
idea that. The concept is that how much of the land did God give to Abraham, I guess, maybe, or to Jacob turned into Israel, maybe. I don't know. But they're definitely wanting to influence beyond what the traditional 12 tribes had and safeguard an economic corridor. I'm not saying necessarily that there's some global conspiracy to take over the land of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. I'm saying that there was every intent to make sure that we had a way to keep those areas secure. The attempt was that we could, I think, flex so that the economic corridor could develop between India and Europe.
Yeah, and I think with that book you just read, he kind of got that. I mean, it was already in the works, but he kind of Netanyahu kind of explained, and you told me that you thought that when that book came out, it probably riled
So
up.
in 1995, just before the Monica Lewinsky stuff was going on with Clinton, Netanyahu published a book, Fighting Terrorism, in which the language later used by the neocons is very familiar. Like, I'm reading this 30 years after the event, hearing the same language that was used to justify my involvement in invading and destabilizing Iraq.
Yeah.
Further destabilizing. I don't know how stable it was to begin with. You can argue that point if you'd like. I don't know. But I do know that shortly after I was there, shortly after the invasion, one of the two other, Halliburton had stepped in and said, essentially, we can provide for you the technology necessary for you to increase production of your oil by 5 times the amount. Oh, nation of Iraq, will you let us update your oil wells? And they said no.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the hope, was that we would liberate them from Saddam, that we would increase their oil productivity, that they would somehow, some liberal democracy just kind of flow into this area as if they wanted it, and that the ends justified the means, even if it was a lie of imminent destruction that caused them to send me over there.
So with the government they have there now, like, what is your opinion of
I have no idea. I haven't followed anything. I don't know what has happened, what has transpired. I couldn't tell you. I just, I had heard it's failed state. I think it really depends on who you ask. I know my interpreter talks about Afghanistan, and I can tell you that Taliban rule there, that he's not allowed to ever go back to his own country, that his father lost everything because he had supported the government of Afghanistan that we were trying to implement, and had actually been a member of the official government of Afghanistan for a number of years. So that is the legacy we left behind there. I could tell you that.
Yeah, there's this one show by this one dude, Martyr Made, and he talks about how post World War II, a lot of kind of colonizing nations went back into the Middle East to, kind of restart what they had taken a break from during World War II. You had the French in Africa, and then Vietnam, and then in Syria. I think the French helped with Syria as well, and then the British mandated Palestine, which was kind of before and stuff like that. So what you kind of had after that was there's kind of two directions a Middle Eastern nation could go when it came to not being a part of the liberal democracy or of what had caused so much imperialism. There's two directions. You can go sort of Islamic, theocracy government, and then you have the socialist government theocracy, because those two were the forms of government that were most common in combating colonialism. And I'm not justifying their government ideas. Obviously I'm an American, but I mean, it's kind of just like a no shit. All those Islamic countries would pop up in movements, and then the other smaller kind of movements that eventually sprung out after are also due to Soviet invasion and then the US meddling. So it's kind of just like a no shit. It happened, and I think it's just none of our business to meddle in it. But I don't get to make the decisions, so my point's irrelevant.
I honestly think that that's kind of what I thought you were going to go a little bit lighter today, man. And we were going to sit outside and enjoy ourselves, and you're throwing the hard balls already. But you talked about Gen Z itself, like what has been given to you, right? I think that is a very important thing to talk about. I think that it's very unfortunate that you've been given this we must meddle in the rest of the world's affairs. We must play the world's policeman.
Yeah,
that was something that
are out there right now.
That was something that I don't believe our founding fathers intended us to do as a republic. I don't see why we necessarily, but that began with containment theory against communism. That began with that and then melded into terrorism. And this was, this sort of paints a picture of these little puddles. Netanyahu uses the terms little puddles of potential violence, and that those all need to be stamped out before they all grow together and become one big, right? And so therefore we need to justify. He speaks specifically. What kind of surprised me and frustrated me about this is that he's talking about U.S. policy. Throughout the whole thing. This is what the U.S. needs to do on behalf of all of us, so that the U.S. can lead us in this new thing.
Well, he went to high school in Cheltenham. Like he's basically like, you know, because that's like a whole thing. I mean, for their country, they have a special arrangement, kind of like underlyingly, unspokenly, that they can come to our country and live here and then live in Israel and go back and forth and be in positions of government or big important businesses. And, you know, and he definitely cultivated a lot of relationships throughout his entire life, from doing business in Boston, growing up in Philly, and then obviously going into politics. You know, it's kind of alarming, you know, that we have this, everybody's like, it's our greatest ally, and it's like, it's just scary. It's scary to know that like a country, somebody from another country grew up here and has been like infiltrating our government for the very long time, you know. And it's, I think that kind of goes to immigration thing. We don't want to talk about that, but it's scary and it's unusual. No other country does that. Like no other, like some countries we have like inherent alliances with, which are like whatever, but I feel like just Israel's always the special ally, and it should be stopped. It continue though, yeah.
Well, as Archbishop Philip heard from the president a couple of times, I think a couple of presidents, is essentially they don't have a unified Arab contingent in their voting districts. They do have evangelical Christians and Zionists
that can approach them with demands. The Arabs kind of never had their, you know, representation or means to ask for anything, you know. And I'm not. We've
ever since the incidents in the 70s, you know, the plane. Was it 73 in Egypt, I believe it was, a plane was captured and 150 hostages or so were freed because the terrorists were killed, and like I guess they were pro-Palestinian terrorists or something like that, I guess. But like ever since then, Hollywood and then especially the drum roll began of this concept of Arab terrorism, and then 95, this is specific to Middle Eastern bred extremist terrorism, and because of that we ought to give up our rights to specific weapons, our rights to specific language, that we ought to be surveilled, that we ought to be, it's the Patriot Act justified is really what this is.
What does he say about the surveillance? Like, what is his justification?
Because we don't know where those little puddles of potential violence are, so we need to surveil in order to recognize the puddles of potential violence before they become waves of dissent and violence. Anyone willing to, he labels, the irony is that he labels a terrorist as anyone who's willing to commit violence against civilians.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. What are you doing right now, sir? He's
describing himself.
I mean, that really was what I got from the introduction when he's talking about what it is to wage terrorism. He does not at any point in this distinguish the difference between the acceptance of the 1968 borders, according to international law, and the alleged greater territory that they feel they need to secure in order to keep themselves secure, which is the Golan Heights, which is all the settlements, and of course he doesn't mention a single settlement at all, despite the UN data that up until at least 91, I think it was the last census I saw, there were 110 I believe, settlements at that time, and currently 350, according to the last news article that I had read.
Well, they're targeting like even Christian settlements too, because there's various Palestinian Christian settlements, more than people kind of think of. Because people, I mean, obviously it's predominantly Muslim, but I mean it's it's the land of Christ. I mean, of course there's going to be not a million, but like a lot of Christians there, and there's various churches being burnt down and attacked, or even one of them was striked with hard artillery, and it was an accident. Apparently that's what their government said. So, it's really disheartening to see that, and to see like the seeds planted. I feel like there's a mass awakening to this, but it's a mass awakening that really doesn't mean anything because nothing's going to happen to stop it. I mean, unless, but yeah, because the information is just so obvious, like out there. Talk about the quote with the 9/11 thing or the World Trade Center.
Well, he does claim
that real quick.
Well, I mean, he just mentions that there will be a nuclear bomb in the basement of the World Trade Towers, and that I had never understood why the World Trade Towers would be targeted by this alleged individuals who wanted to strike terror in the heart of America for us having this freedom that we have. And I think that was what George W. told us, if I remember right. But here, at least, he gets into the idea that it's a symbol of economic power and stability. And he's the one that I was shocked mentioned that would be a target for them. And then later on in the book said that essentially if we don't do anything, there will be a nuclear weapon potentially at the bottom of the World Trade Center towers.
Go on.
So, 95.
Yeah. Well, man.
That was, I mean, that's if we don't start curtailing our speech and start really monitoring our citizens kind of globally, governments can't understand how all of those isolated puddles of potential terrorists are actually in cahoots. So we need the surveillance so that all of the governments together can know that all of the terrorists are in cahoots, and all the potential violence out there is just senseless terrorism.
So what did you at that age, you were in the military, did you ever hear about the Patriot Act? Did you understand it? Like, what did you think?
I couldn't believe that we were allowing it to happen, but now we are just funding Palantir. Like, I mean, it's been a steady march since then towards a more recorded state of existence.
Yeah. I mean, it's more subversive
state of existence.
because and I'll admit, when I see that picture of the little Mussolini chart poster with his little face on it, that's hard. That looks cool. I'm gonna put a picture up right here.
I have no idea what.
It's cool. It looks like some 1984 stuff because in the past, like 100 years ago, you could be overt about it. You'd be like, "Yeah, we're fascists. We're gonna control you. You can't do shit about it. Suck a dick." You know what I mean? But now it's like subversive. It's like weird. It's like, because we can live here, we can live in a beautiful state like Delaware. Like, you can go to Lum's Pond, you can relax, go camping. You live a normal life, relatively, as it seems. But if at any moment you do something out of the ordinary or something, or you start talking about something, or if something happens that the government don't like, it could turn into 1984 in 2 seconds. But on the surface level outside, we're in this kind of beautiful world, and I love America and everything. But I feel like we're stepping into an age that's more subversive and boring. I mean, I kind of think about this. People kind of talk about World War III like it's like a movie and it's going to happen. But we're stepping into this kind of slow, boring aeon, and it's not the age we're going in, the future we're going in is a very kind of slow process, and you won't even notice it, and then when it's there, it's like, oh, can't go back. That's where I think we're headed. But anyways,
that's exactly how it's been. Once it's there, you can't go back. That's the same with the settlements. That's the excuse of the settlements now. You can't reverse nature. You can't reverse growth. You can't reverse people having families. Of course, it became 350 villages on West Bank soil and Gaza soil. Of course, it became 350 in a town. Think of 350 villages in Delaware. Think of how many 350 additional towns just put here.
With the people that aren't from here.
Right. Just, there you go.
Claiming it's
yours. It's theirs. It's theirs.
Yeah.
350 towns.
From Jersey.
Okay.
You know,
right.
Yeah.
How would that feel? How would the farmers in southern Delaware
I would become a suicide bomber, you know.
You know what I mean?
Sign up for the whole thing, yeah.
I'm just, so, and that has always been the very first precondition, and that has never been discussed, because that is always couched in the language of, in order to keep Israel safe, it has to be wider. It's only 9 miles wide at one point, according to 1968.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, if that happened in Delaware, I'd become a suicide bomber. I mean, people kind of like they can't put themselves in the shoes of people. I mean, it's like, you know, the Israeli government that they have there. I mean, even though I don't agree with the whole concept of Zionism, there has been administrations that have sought peace and have tried to just be normal kind of countries and administrations. But when they even go like a rather moderate route, like, you know, it's not enough for me personally. Even when they go that route that is a little bit enough for, you know, people that are, you know, freedom oriented, their own prime minister gets assassinated by terrorists in the 90s. I forget his name. But, you know, picture right there. Yeah, it's like they got assassinated. And the current person who's in Netanyahu's administration is on record doing a street interview as he got assassinated. And after he got assassinated, and the dude that's one of the, like, secretary of something in in Netanyahu's cabinet was like, he's like 20 years old, and he's like, yeah, I think he should have got killed. I don't care. Fuck him. You wanted peace with the Palestinians? Fuck off. You know, so it's like, come on. I forget his name. His name's like Ben Gvir, the one dude that like let me figure out his name.
I don't know who the president was in the 90s or whatever.
Itmar Ben Gvir is the far right politician, Minister of National Security.
Michael, it's okay though, because the whole point that
Yitzak Rabin was assassinated, former prime minister. Good dude. Try to seek peace. Continue. Sorry.
Netanyahu says that the legislative branch needs to review the guidelines every year, so they can determine when enough is enough and when it's gone too far towards the curtailing of these freedoms of speeches. Because here in America, evidently, these freedoms of speech and arms are given by the government and need to be controlled by the government and only issued essentially.
Let's leave it a quote.
Refuse to transfer any funds to PLO. Well, I thought they were given the actual responsibility of controlling their own land according to the Oslo Accords. So how are we not supposed to support that? That's what they're supposed to. Like, they were given responsibility for it, but you can't give them funding, and you can't let their police actually control anything. I propose that laws of, okay, here we go. Rather, I propose that the laws of every free society must be such as to permit the security services to move against groups which incite to violence against the country's government or its citizens.
Yes. Okay.
If the law does not allow a government to sift through the extremist splinters associating violence in order to identify which groups are actively planning terrorist actions and shut them down before they strike, then the law is insufficient. So there goes innocent until proven guilty, right?
Jesus, man.
He talks about owning a machine gun. Owning a gun is okay for self-defense. Owning a machine gun leads to armies, so we can't have machine guns. Familiarity with terrorism and its complete rejection should create a citizenry which is capable of living with terror. Not in the sense of accepting terror, but rather in the sense of understanding what is needed for society to survive its attacks with the least amount of damage.
What does that mean? What the fuck? Oh,
Terrorism has the unfortunate quality of expanding to fill the vacuum left to it by passivity or weakness. And it shrinks accordingly when confronted with resolute and decisive action.
oh God, dude.
Educate the public.
This is terrible. This is it's like the machine gun thing. It's like, I mean, you really think about it. Netanyahu's worked with
Undoubtedly.
blue and red administration.
Undoubtedly. The leaders of the United States in particular
Okay.
could be subjected to a barrage of criticism that they are curtailing civil freedoms. Oh, it was civil freedoms. Those weren't rights. The inalienable rights that you were born with. They're civil freedoms given to you by the government. Civil freedoms. And that they are overreacting. They should reject this criticism, responding as has the Supreme Court of the United States, that, quote, it is obvious and unarguable that no governmental interest is more compelling than the security of the nation, and this includes unlimited civil liberties.
Oh,
So those are civil liberties, Michael.
I'm gonna throw up.
Those aren't rights. They're not given you by God. They're not given you. They're not inalienable rights that you were born with. They're civil liberties provided by the government. Here you go. You can have a gun, not a machine gun. You can say certain things. Definitely don't criticize what we're doing in the name of our future energy prospects. Because honestly, we just need to, paint it black and white for you, and not let you hear the other side in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't speak to the root of it. Doesn't speak to what the terrorist demands are. Doesn't speak to what anything. It just speaks to this idea that there are puddles of terrorists all over the place, and that we need mass surveillance, and we need to make sure that the U.S. Congress pulls through with it to lead the entire rest of the world in this mass surveillance to make sure that we can root out potential enemies before they strike. 95, man. 95.
Yeah, it's basically laying the groundwork. I mean, that's one thing.
I'm sorry, the World Trade bombing, Timothy McVeigh, and there was another bombing at
Oklahoma.
Right.
Well, that was our domestic. That was rather domestic. And there's an FBI. There's a theory that an FBI agent that is alive right now was the one that did it. That it was there. And then there's another more information about that I don't know about, but that was sketchy.
I only speak to what has been written in that book and what I've seen personally. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trust much of the. I'm not willing to go into stuff that, I don't know about that sort of thing, but I can very easily follow some breadcrumbs.
With
to how
it's like sketchy. Why
the U.S. policy changed with the Patriot Act and why U.S. I mean, I can remember. I'm old enough to remember the mid '90s that were awesome. Like, Clinton was going to help reduce the deficit. Like, we were running a surplus. Like, music was awesome. Like, I remember, and it's sad that then I think the rest of us kind of thought, like, these are horrible. But then driving to class one day in September, and I'm going, what's this World Trade Center thingy in New York? What's that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Huh? What's that?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, we were talking again last time about the frame of reference thing. We were like, the Gen X's have the frame of reference of they don't have a singular event, but they have the fear, the Cold War fear, rather, Vietnam War and stuff like that. But with your generation, you obviously have 9/11 and how that happened, and war on terror and expansionism. And with my generation, we have the stripping away of our freedoms when COVID happened, as a kind of frame of reference of things. And there's two sides of that. There's the side of will you comply or will you not comply, and that split our generation. That is very loud. That's very interesting.
It's train tracks over there.
Yeah. So that kind of split our generation, the coronavirus thing, and we are where we're at. And then obviously with the Israel-Palestine thing is it's not splitting our generation at all, because nearly everybody in my generation is not standing for, any of this shit, so right or left.
When I was at the Democratic National Convention in 2008 and Obama announced that he was running for president to the support of the Democratic National Convention.
Yep.
I can remember feeling so hopeful, but then when I heard his campaign, it was when I realized, like, what's the most profitable thing you can get into, like, besides war?
What is that?
I would say illness and health.
Yeah.
So here I hear, like, I've watched as the drumbeats to war from allegedly one party, pushed us into invading Iraq and Afghanistan and not finding any weapons of mass destruction and going on with that. In order to have made that really happen, there had to have been some deals cut across the aisle, and all of a sudden we're pushing for the universal health care, and we're pushing for the government intervention and everything with regards to our medicine. And that lays groundwork for, here we are, when the flu disappears from the record and all of a sudden it became a global health crisis of this COVID thing, and created in a lab in China from gain of function research. And the mRNA, that we still don't really know what its long-term effects seem to be. And there weren't really seems to be long-term studies done because it's quote unquote an emergency, just like there was no time for Congress to declare war back in 9/11 days and war on terror because it's an imminent threat. Saddam has weapons of mass destruction that weren't there, evidently. Right? We have to push this narrative that it's an imminent threat. Give up your rights and give up everything quickly. And then, shoot, never mind. Turned out we were wrong. Everything's okay. Don't go back to normal. We've already got your rights. We're going to keep that. But you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we're just going to ratchet up a little bit further next year.
Yeah, like that was very quick. And whenever there's like a legislation that's passed to make sure that things kind of go according to how like Congress should do it, especially like what Massey does, it always gets shot down. Massey's really the only one sticking up for the American people. So yeah, it's just...
the ideas of individual bills, especially, I appreciate. This idea of omnibus at the last second. We have to pass this or the government will shut down. We have to push the debt ceiling even higher. We have to spend even more money to our donors, to our lobbyists. We have to, or the government will shut down, or we just, oh my God, we got to do it. We got,
Yeah, it's really, like, it's imminent. It's imminent. It's like, no, it's not.
Everything's fever pitch. Meanwhile, we've forgotten how to live without government in our life. We've forgotten how to do things as a society or as individuals or as neighbors, and really help each other, so that when the government withdraws funding, we no longer have a readily available state solution. We no longer have a readily available local community solution. So it feels like, again, an emergency. Oh my gosh, we're going to pull the funding for this. Oh no, print the money. Come on, we can do it.
We won't be able to fund, aid solutions in Sudan. It's like, I don't care. I have much empathy to the people living there, but I'd prefer that my money does not go to, shit from another country, especially like, even if it's like charitable. Let the nonprofits kind of handle that. That's my kind of thing. And as much as I hate socialism, if we're gonna do socialism, do it domestically. And I hate socialism, but if you're gonna put money anywhere, put it in the hands of our own people. But that's kind of where I'm at with there. But yeah, so what did you think of, like, you went back in Afghanistan when Obama was elected, after Obama was elected?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was you disappointed? Were you like, oh, this guy's another fucking war hawk?
No, I if I recall, the national narrative was sort of that he has shifted the focus to where it's supposed to be and to where it has supposed to have been.
Okay.
Right? So we're drawing down in Iraq, we're drawn out of that area, and now we're going to shift focus and really dial in on Afghanistan. So like I shared last time, with you that I landed and read the daily brief, the situation report, sit rep, the communication for the day, and commander's update brief. The Cub is sitting there saying, intel from Pakistan from the ISI claims that if we win this fighting season, they will not have the means or the manpower or the support to continue fighting. So I took that to mean, hey man, if we win this one this year, boys, we can go home, right? So it was a very honorable mission that I stepped into. It was the village stability operations idea of allowing the Afghans to choose their representation and develop a democracy from the ground up, from the villages. And so I was excited about it. I really thought that was cool. I was like, I almost thought, doing this at least can kind of reconcile in my heart what felt like it was obviously a ploy in the other theater. We didn't have wars, we had operations. They were Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And some of us got to partake in both. And, the one operation to me felt like it was a complete money grab based off of what we didn't finish in 91. And the other operation, at least at the surface, felt like it was where we were supposed to be and what we were supposed to be doing. And even in 2011, I still felt that when I entered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you felt a little bit better about it. And then eventually we talked about in the last episode about like the blood clot and everything.
Yeah, we could even splice in. I've got a couple of great videos of myself just driving around in a truck, like a pickup truck, like Hilux, that hadn't been probably serviced for years in this dusty, craptacular place. No armor. Nobody even knows we've even left the base, because that would have required a lot of hoops to jump through that I didn't have time to jump through and didn't have the resources available to me. So it was like, we're just out in the middle of nowhere hoping to not run out of gas or have a flat tire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that was cool to be able to experience that. So then when I had a blood clot, knowing the relationships that I had built, I was thinking about that during the dog walk in preparation for this. At one point, I had an Afghan National Army Special Forces team and an American Special Forces team living in a place, in a village, and the Afghan National Army regular soldiers had a company of soldiers, 150 guys, living close by that continually harassed and tried to take food and supplies from my Green Berets. So the Green Berets know me as the Afghan guy. They don't know who else to talk to. They contact me. And it just so happens that I have been bumping elbows and know the Australian counterparts that are mentoring and coaching the Afghan National Army regular army guys. So I'm reaching out to Australian guys and saying, hey, can you guys relocate?
Yeah, there's like a lot of Canadian,
you know what I mean? Like
there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And British, yeah.
Right. And so it was just the number of pieces. Did I tell you about the 150 AKs I lost and the joy of nation building at its finest? Okay, you ready for this one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so there's
I haven't heard this.
Shahidia Sauce is a place here.
Yeah.
In one corner. And then Sarah is up around the river bend. And Sarah and Tagah are this other area that used to be its own district. And they don't really like each other too much. But when Karzai came in, they made it one district. As we are exercising the Afghan local police program, we're arming the villagers and recruiting the villagers from Shahidia Sauce and trying to do recruitment in Tagah Valley to kind of block heroin coming up from the marine clearing operations in Helmand Valley, and standard army stuff, I suppose, what should be, right?
Yeah.
Governor flies into the area, says, I'm going to make you your own district. I'm off to tell Karzai himself, flies out. My boss says, Willits, these 150 AK-47s need to be to that village like now. We've got Blackhawks on standby, ready to go. Get them there. Okay, so I'm just loading this thing, right? The dude lands in Kabul, talks to Karzai. Karzai says no.
Why does he say no?
So who knows, right? He just, nope, not going to happen, right? Tribal, whatever. Somebody paid the bribe, somebody, whatever. He just didn't do it. So now I've got these weapons that are off in a village that is the historical rival of the other village that I need to essentially get back so that he can look at them, have them on his property book, sign for them, keep track of them, right?
Yeah.
So how am I going to get right? And I'm flying out. My first time with SEAL Team 10 rips in, and I'm trying to get this through to the commanding officer and to the top non-commissioned officer and get them to understand this situation, right? And we land in this place, and it was the first time I think I ever felt like I was really in over my head, because this was only a half team, only split team, so 6 dudes. They're living in a house. Yeah. The wall has caved in because of water. They hear watches at night when they don't wear watches. Their only security is an automated turret that looks like has a person in it, but there's nobody actually in there because they don't have the manpower to actually do any of this, you know. And there are my 150 weapons that I need to tell them they need to somehow trek over mountains and rivers and hillsides to give back to the place that I should have delivered them.
Damn.
Right? Nation building.
What happened? Did you get in trouble or no?
By the time I left, the provincial chief of police got fired because he wasn't made aware of the situation until I got there, and I fought tooth and nail and risked my life to get out there to tell him about it, and it all fell apart. And a corrupt provincial chief of police took over, and then he. You know,
what does it mean?
All because I got medevac. So I'm sorry, by the way, yeah. So just so your listener knows, all because I got medevac. So like we lost the global war on terror because Willits got medevac. I didn't get up often enough on the plane, folks. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. So many years down the drain. I kind of just.
What does it mean? What do you mean when you say like a police chief is corrupt? Like in what way?
But just favors whomever. Again, like I mentioned last time, that push system of government that your socialist and communist friends speak to and think will somehow eradicate the corruption of capitalism actually becomes, I only get a shipment of 100 large t-shirts a month and maybe only 50 extra larges. And Michael, I don't think you'll fit in a large. So how about this? If you do me a favor, I'll save an extra large for you.
So was that kind of happening in Afghanistan? Like a rather kind of
every level
socialist.
That's thing? Just how it is. You make favors with family, with clan, with city, with town, with village, with region, with district, with province. Like your family is everything, right? That's all it is. That you just. So when we had Khazaruzgan, which is this perfect little district that was working exactly right, and they were actually just, and the district chief of police was doing the right thing, and the local chief of police was doing the right thing. The village voted them out and said, they're not playing the same favors. This guy's not playing things right. This isn't the way we do things around here. He's gone. And immediately, as soon as he was fired and replaced, he was killed by an IED, or his son was, and then he was like a week later, you know?
Yeah. Damn, that's not... Man, yeah, people kind of don't think about it, like, practically. They think in, like, fantasy when it comes to communism, because that's the only way to think of it. You know, I don't know. It is what it is. You know, like the way that if people think that way, but I think, you know, you've had kind of firsthand experience with it not working and the needs for a need-based society.
Push-based system, equity rather than equality of opportunity.
Yeah. It's like
a difference. They sound
term
similar.
That Rothbard talks about called like egalitarianism is like a kind of flawed. Yeah. So. Damn.
This idea of everybody should end up at the same place, no matter their effort, because society will lift them up in a way, is a beautiful pipe dream.
Yeah, we're not doing that. No.
I would love to see, honestly, if we had a culture of selflessness, like if it was just a natural thing that I would just identify as, how do I serve Michael? How do I serve my environment? How do I serve those around me? If that just became what we're born into and the way that we just think about life, like it is
If
in
it's
much of the East.
voluntary, if it's just like a like we're my
then
family
society
is told
could
to give to other
possibly lift
people.
up, right?
Yeah, but
You celebrate the individual so much that the ego becomes primary, and the ego is all about me, 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 me.
even though I kind of prefer the individual thinking, I do think like we should kind of have values of like selflessness, but through a rather voluntary ideology. There's a system called like voluntarism, which is like about well, I mean, there's that thing like mutual aid, what they talk about, like just giving, charity. Anyways, I don't know too much about that.
No, I love talking about that sort of thing.
Yeah, like that's because you worked in charity before, right? Or not?
Well, I had hoped that, yes, I could develop a positive organizational training for nonprofits to retain volunteers and to retain their psychological capital when they're just having compassion fatigue, and they've got volunteer drop off, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But more so my theology, I've read enough science to realize that they can't find an ego that's some measurable like bucket somewhere inside of you that's Michael, that's ever going to be full. You'll never be happy because of that. So where else do you have to seek happiness? Well, I want to retain myself, but instead of focused on me, how about I focus on how I relate to things?
Yeah.
And then that naturally develops into, I want to be of service to this relationship with you, with my environment, with myself, with my future self. I want to always be in service to that relationship naturally, because I see myself as how I relate to others rather than King Shit Awesome Jason, who's really just a whiny little baby I carry around all the time going,
I totally get it. Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering where else, like that initial question of how did we get here? Like what other, it seems to me, I think the world has changed so damn much from the mid 90s that I don't even know where to start with how it became. I mean, it went from let's have a government surplus to let's print how many trillions of dollars.
Well, we need the stimulus checks.
We need to, right?
Well,
we need to fight terror, and then we need to bail out the automotive industry, and then we also need to bail out the banks, and then we also need to make sure that the Wall Street protests become Black Lives Matter, and then we fund all the sorts of BLM stuff. We fund all sorts of diversity, equity, and inclusion so that we really become one big happy family while we're still funding all the other stuff and make sure that, we've gotten government into offering health care to everybody so that we can develop a virus that kills a few and with that lock everybody down and shift another so many $1 trillion north to the 10 billionaires that doubled their money over the course of the time. Meanwhile, we've printed so much damn money that I can't afford a home. I don't know how you're going to afford a home. The World Economic Forum, here's Klaus talking about how we're going to just rent and be happy. We'll own nothing and be happy. And we're
that
stuck
statement
with
alone
the
should get you hanged.
And we're stuck with the options of either, we can't fake it anymore. Biden is cognitively deployed. Here's Kamala. Don't even think about it. Here you go. Or Trumpster fire. Like those are our options, right? Those are our options. Really. So I would have a few more questions, man. That's all. I just, for me, it's been a roller coaster, dude. Like I don't have kids because it has just honestly been so traumatic that I've just been like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of children I'd be bringing into this world, or I don't know what kind of world into which I'd be, I don't know what kind of world they'd face. I don't know if I want to subject them to our future.
I mean, I think stuff's pretty bad, but I think it'd be, I'm a, go have kids, everyone. But
I would much rather work towards steering the Titanic away from the iceberg than be distracted with children, raising children, and making that my life. And I'm not saying anything against doing that. I think that's the normal way to do things. For whatever reason, I just got a bug in my system that said I cannot live that life while the things that I've witnessed firsthand continue.
You also got 2 beautiful dogs and a parrot.
I do have 2 beautiful dogs and a I'll say beautiful parrot because I'm expected to. He's beautiful. he's cool for a parrot.
Is he running his mouth too much?
It's just so the smartest thing Verdiana ever said to me is he's not a mammal. So it's singular. This is my mate. I'm just conflict. I'm just the so I can be as nice as I can to him, and I am, but he's never going to be like happy to see me and warm up to me. I'm always somebody he wants to attack, always.
That's funny.
And bite, always. He'll give me kisses every once in a while, but other than that, and you got to be careful because like you don't know. Sometimes it'll be a kiss that turns into he's going to plunge his beak right into the front of your lip. I've had that happen too. So that's not
That's funny.
You hesitate. You got to go. Okay, Max, maybe.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We covered a lot of new ground after the last one and talked about some different stuff. And in the description, you can check out his stuff. But thank you for coming to the show, man. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no, we always cover some good ground. And we suffered for the audience. Everybody, it's sweaty than a motherfucker. We suffer for you. But we love to suffer for you. We love to suffer for our audience. And but yeah, go check out some of his videos, particularly the on the thinking of your service and how you think. Ask me, how do you feel about my service in relation to that? So, but yeah, thanks for coming. Bye.
Thanks, Frank.